Hi, I'm Bec and I'm a property investor.
And I'm Darya. I own my own home and I'm curious about investing.
We're the hosts of Investors in the Wild.
We've heard it all before. Build your wealth, get expert advice, learn about high yield, high growth investments, blah, blah, blah.
That's just not us. We're real mates with real talk about real estate. No ego, no financial advice.
It's all about wins you can use right now.
Let's get into it.
All right. We got some feedback from listeners that while Darya and I are on our house hunting journey, that it would be fun to be taken behind the scenes to see the places that we're checking out, what we're looking for, how we're applying the learnings from the podcast. And so this is the first of those episodes. As you can see, I'm riding solo today. Darya will join me from the next session. And also from the next session, you're going to start hearing a new voice. It's my dad's voice. His name is Steve. And Steve is he's like the Swiss Army knife you pull out when you're doing anything with property. And so I take him to inspections and he points out things that would never have occurred to me. Hopefully you can hear the suggestions that he gives and apply it when you're house hunting and know things to look out for. You might remember Faz's couch convo. Faz has a type when it comes to properties, and I also have a type. I typically buy places that are scrappy and run down, and that lets me buy underpriced relative to other properties in the area, and I will fix the place up over time. Okay, so I inspected 3 places on the weekend. All of them met the dud, but not too duddy criteria. They were in North Bexley, Canterbury and Croydon. I'm looking in that area in particular because there's a heap of infrastructure investment, both in terms of transport, but also there's a local ice rink going in there. The local shopping areas are being uplifted. And perhaps most importantly, that's probably the limit of where I can afford a house. I'm also going to have a stack of photos and videos from my inspections in this episode so that you can literally see the things that Dad and I were looking at as we were inspecting, and you know what to look for when you're doing your own inspections. So first place was in Bexley North. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, which would typically disqualify it from my list. I like to go for places where I can add a bedroom or a bathroom. But for this place, the bathrooms were very dated. So I thought, good to still have a look. So what did I love about this place? It's a block away from the shops. It had a park across the road for kids. It was a block away from Bexley North train station, which is then 20 minutes from the city. Super close. When I was walking around, heaps of young couples and young families, close to Earlwood, which is a local restaurant district, and close to schools. The house itself was double bricked, really solid, and it had decent sized front yards and backyards, both really low maintenance. Lots of ticks going into that place. So I started inspecting it with Dad, Steve, and remember, Steve knows exactly what to look for. He beelines for the bathroom, takes a look at it. It looks okay. He steps out of the bathroom, opens up a wardrobe door that's right next to the bathroom. And what do you know? There's actually a lot of water damage in that wardrobe. We then went through to the backyard and we were standing in the backyard looking back at the house. And he pointed out that the tin roof at the back of the house is flat. And in some parts, the tin roof actually looks like it's slightly angled back towards the house, which means when it rains, the rain is going to either sit on that roof and eventually seep in through cracks, or it'll run back into the house. Now, that rings alarm bells for me because I recently had to replace gutters on a much smaller house, and that cost me $6,000. So the thought of having to do a much greater surface area, I mean, I'm not a roofing expert, but it'd be well over 10 grand. So then we take a step back. We've got water damage in the bathroom. We've got water that probably does leak into the roof. And Steve says, let's go under the house. We get under the house through the garage, and within seconds, I am coughing and having to hold my scarf over my face because the smell of the mold was so bad. It was unlike anything I had ever, and I'm in Sydney. You get the occasional whiffs of mold. This was intense mold. We got out of there super quickly. But Dad pointed out as we were going, there were no vents under the house. So there was no way for air to get under the house, through the house, and dry it out, which means the foundations of the house just sit there and get wet and moldy and wet and moldy. Now, the problem with all of this, water leaking through the bathroom, water through the roof, water down the bottom, they're expensive fixes and they don't add value to a house. So we left that place. Steve says 2 stars for that place, 2 stars out of 5. Second place was in Canterbury. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. When I looked at the floor plan, I thought, great, I'll be able to add an extra bedroom, quite easy. However, when I arrived, it was very clear I wouldn't be able to add the extra bathroom. So that immediately took it off my list. Another thing that took this place off my list, it was right outside a bus stop. The place was in really good nick. I couldn't add any value. So even though it did tick boxes in terms of great location, a really nice house, we took it off the list because it wasn't my type. The last place was in Croydon. I ticked a few boxes. It looked pretty cute from the front. 10 minutes to the local train station, 10 minutes to an ice rink, 10 minutes to sports fields. When you looked at the house on realestate.com, it looked like you could do a bit of work, but it wasn't too much work. But then when you got into it, you saw it was built by extension after extension after extension. And when I was talking to Dad about this, it makes it a very expensive renovation because you're having to knock down double brick walls to build out to an extension that's quite flimsy. So you've got a very old house, you're knocking down double bricks. You don't know how the bones of the house are going to handle that, if the roof is going to handle it, if the floors are going to handle it. And Dad said, this becomes a job where you need an engineer looking at it the whole time, which makes it just super exy. It was cute from the front, not so cute from the back. There were 3 massive trees in the backyard hanging over the yard and starting to grow over the house. But the 2 that were non-native were huge. I remember about 10 years ago, I had to remove 3 trees that were growing over a house. And that cost me 12 grand about 10 years ago. So again, very expensive to remove those trees. Steve says 2 stars for this place as well. So Steve didn't give anyone 5 out of 5 stars. We'll be back on the lookout next weekend.
Hello, it's Bec. If you thought this episode was valuable, please help others to find it by finding us on Spotify, dropping a rating or review, or just sharing it with a friend who would find these stories relatable and insightful. And if you're an investor with insights to share, hit us up on Instagram at investorsinthewild or email investorsinthewild@gmail.com. After all, we're all mates helping each other. And if you're a hopeful investor, we would love to hear from you. Reach out with feedback, questions, or topic ideas. It would be great to hear what you want to see behind the investing curtain. Talk soon.